So, mates, welcome into your Tuesday edition of FOXSOUL's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicks. Nicordelai Corte has the day off today. We're following the latest in the Trump indictment and who could actually buy BET. We're bringing you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our top news story for today. Civil rights leaders and ministers in Ocala, Florida, passionately demanded justice for a memorial service for Ajike Owens. It's a black mother who tragically lost her life when a white neighbor fired a fatal shot through a closed front door. Reverend Al Sharpton and attorney Ben Crump drew connections between this incident to previous killings of black Americans such as Trayvon Martin and George Floyd. Now, the neighbor, Susan Lorenz, faces charges including manslaughter. Eyewitnesses' statements and the investigation firmly established that Lorenz's actions were unjustifiable under Florida law. Outrage grows as the community mourns Owens' untimely death and calls for justice and systemic change become more resolute. That memorial took place yesterday, and we're talking first-degree felony of manslaughter charges. That's with a firearm as well as culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault. And a lot of people are saying this isn't enough. Some are saying, let's go with these charges and see what we can maybe work our way up to. She also got out on $154,000 bond. At least that's what was settled in that hearing. And a lot of people, again, are looking for a tougher sentence. But in the mean and in between, there's an ongoing argument that ensued for years, according to reports. And not only this neighbor, that being AJ, but from reports, they're saying that other neighbors were complaining about this Miss Lorenz as well. Apparently, Lorenz threw a pair of roller skates or a skate at one of AJ's children, and that skate hit that child, which prompted the knock at the door. And as we know, this is what we're dealing with, which is this murder. She leaves behind AJ Owens, that is a 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old. AJ's mother, who has really spoken so eloquently since this tragic murder of her daughter, it just seems as though she's taking on the role of continuing to heal and raise these children, and hopefully some justice and maybe some lawsuits to come will definitely help them aid in whatever they're going to need in their future. We move on here to Deja Taylor of Newport News, Virginia, as she pleads guilty in federal court to gun charges related to her 6-year-old son shooting his elementary school teacher. You may remember that story. Taylor admitted to being an illegal drug user in possession of a firearm and making false statements on a Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive form during the firearm purchase. Federal law prohibits drug users from owning firearms, and buyers must declare their non-drug use. Authorities discovered narcotics and related items in Taylor's home, along with the firearm her son used in that shooting. Taylor's previous arrest for drug possession was also noted. The U.S. Attorney's Office continues to emphasize the importance of enforcing federal firearm laws to ensue safety. And a lot of people are zoning in now on her checkered past with that arrest. That was back in 2021. She was stopped for speeding. Authorities did find marijuana and drug paraphernalia in her possession at that time. You fast forward to these charges, which include, not properly securing that gun. There was no lockbox. There was no trigger lock on that gun as well. And as I stated in the story, federal law prohibits users of illegal drugs to own firearms. That's why you have to check, soulmates, to see what the laws and policies are from state to state. A lot of states have, and a lot of states are still pushing to legalize marijuana, but in some states, it is not legal, and you need to know that. Going back to this first grade teacher who is still in recovery, tragically injured in this case. She says she's still recovering. She says, look, when she was shot, she felt like she had died. She has since filed a lawsuit in the amount of $40 million. This was back in early April. She named the Newport News School Board, the superintendent, the principal, the assistant principal. They've all been named in this suit. It is moving through the court systems really as we speak today. And that Virginia community has some healing to continue to do. And so we'll definitely keep on top of this story. So now let's go to Kentucky, where several neighbors discovered flyers believed to be distributed by KKK members, specifically from the Trinity Knights branch. Now, the flyers attributed to the white supremacist organization contained hateful messages targeting individuals of color. Local authorities confirmed the sightings and are investigating the incident. In a separate incident shared on social media, a clash between a pride protest organizer and an individual claiming KKK membership occurred in Corbin, Kentucky, escalating to a physical altercation. Now, the response of the police to the incident has raised concerns and has prompted outrage. Moving on here to a historic bill that has been passed by lawmakers in Albany, New York. It will create a commission to study whether Black New Yorkers should receive reparations. Ashley Rodriguez has the story.
A historic bill sits on New York Governor Kathy Hochul's desk. Legislation to create a commission to consider reparations for Black New Yorkers. It passed both the state assembly and Senate Thursday.
We should have done right at the birth of the nation. We should have done right at the end of the Civil War. But the best time to do right is right now.
State Senator James Sanders Jr. sponsored the bill that would create a commission to examine how much New York supported slavery and the systemic barriers to equal economic, political, and educational opportunities endured by Black New Yorkers.
A state like New York has an oversized role in the history of slavery.
Sanders says New York held the manufacturing might to process and export cotton from the South. This is where the slave ships were built. And now New York is following in the footsteps of California, the only other state to legislate a reparations task force, pointing to its own history of over-policing, mass incarceration, and redlining. California's task force found the state is responsible for more than $500 billion owed to its Black citizens.
While we appreciate what they have done in California and what they've come up with, we in the Empire State will choose what is right for New York State.
And that might not just look like a blank check for Black New Yorkers. It could show up as funding to clean up and rezone Black neighborhoods, to support small businesses and first-time home buyers, and improve education. But before any of that happens, Governor Hochul first has to sign the bill into law, and there's no timetable for that.
Yeah, and I say, bring on the commission. You got to take a look at California, who has really led the way in this reparations talk, if you will, forming their task force back in 2021. Cordeline and I have talked plenty of times right here on Fox Soul's Black Report about the idea of reparations and how it goes from that thought to an idea to actually something tangible. And I've always said that my concern was something a little bit more uniformed, as, state by state or city by city is kind of being tasked, if you will, with the effort to bring about reparations. And with that, I wouldn't want anybody to sort of be, I like to say, lost in the sauce or left behind. And so that's the only, kind of issue that I sort of see brewing in this situation, that everybody is doing reparations their own way, to what benefit, and, will it really make good on over 400 years of, generation upon generation of what we know now to be, enslavement, and how would that really permeate our well-being from this point going forward? So lots of talk about, what people would like reparations to actually be. Would it be a check? Would it be, some sort of tax break or credit? Would it be, forgiveness with loans? There has been so much talk about what reparations would actually look like, and then how to go about dispersing those amongst African Americans and soulmates like you and me. So that conversation absolutely continues. Let's move on here to Democrats, who are worrying that recruiting third-party candidates for the 2024 election could draw votes away from President Biden's re-election campaign. Now, the bipartisan group No Labels aims to launch a unity ticket, while progressive activist Cornel West enters the race as a third-party candidate. Recent polls indicate growing openness to third-party options if Biden and Trump are nominees. The Democrats fear a repeat of the 2016 election, where third-party candidates had a significant impact. Now, no labels faces criticism, but remains focused on gaining ballot access nationwide. And that is the group that is putting on this campaign, and it's called Unity Ticket. And, I think it's a great idea, but I think you have to pay attention to the fact that people are a little politically exhausted, especially after the rounds that we've had as far as election seasons from the past. And, you really have to pay attention to the fact that there's this recent poll out that says 70% of Americans did not want Biden to run. Now, that's just focusing on that particular Democratic ticket. So it sounds like to me, even though there is a concern about third party, you have Dr. Cornel West, who, further fuels the concern over third party candidates pulling attention away from Biden. But you also have to think about those 70% of Americans who could, mostly be Democrats, saying they didn't even want Biden to run. Maybe they just don't trust his ability to run this country for another go around. And I think that's a bigger concern than maybe a third party taking attention away from the ticket. But as the election season of 2024, as it hurries up and comes our way, we will definitely continue to see how this all plays out. A highly choreographed scene unfolding in Miami, as you can imagine, as Donald Trump becomes the first former president to be indicted on federal charges. Security is tight in downtown Miami as former President Donald Trump prepares to make his first court appearance before a judge, a federal judge, that is. Dozens of protesters have made their way to the courthouse, some coming in from across the country to witness this historic moment.
Witch hunt after witch hunt. These are sick people.
Former President Donald Trump will appear in this Miami federal courthouse this afternoon, where he's expected to plead not guilty to 37 felony charges related to his alleged mishandling and retention of classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago estate.
I encourage both supporters and critics of Donald Trump to maintain the peace and let the justice system do its work.
Special counsel Jack Smith led the investigation, which accuses Trump of illegally keeping highly sensitive national defense information after his presidency, allegedly showing a classified document to unauthorized people, lying to federal investigators, directing his staff to hide documents, and more.
No one is above the law, period. But the rule of law requires equal justice under the law. Biden's Justice Department has a track record of targeting anyone Biden thinks is a political opponent.
Many Republicans accuse the Justice Department of election interference. Trump supporters still rallying behind the 2024 Republican presidential nominee frontrunner.
We love Trump! You're innocent until proven guilty. We have a process. We have a special prosecutor. We need to let this process play out.
All right, and you saw some Trump supporters in that piece, and I've got another supporter to talk to you about today. Music producer Teddy Riley faced criticism after expressing support for former President Trump on social media. Fans questioned his alignment with Trump, to which Riley allegedly responded that he owed Trump a favor for his involvement in releasing his brother from prison. Riley claimed that Trump taught him about freedom and expressed belief in Trump's potential to do great things, citing his actions in Africa. This is not the first instance of black celebrities such as Kodak Black and Lil Wayne showing support for Trump following their legal situation. So, I was cruising social media, if you will, in particular Black Twitter, and you got some people on one side saying, can you really still support someone who you might not necessarily agree with, but, you may owe or, did you a favor? In this case, Teddy Riley's brother was serving a double life sentence. I wasn't able to get details on what he was convicted of, but we're talking a double life sentence, and now he is free. A guy by the name of Lou Hobbs, Teddy Riley's brother. So I can see how Teddy Riley would be, very, indebted to Donald Trump. But where Teddy lost me was when he said, quote, Trump taught him, quote, how to be a free man in this country. Now, he took me a little left with that. I'm not so sure about those accusations, but everybody can feel the way they feel, if you will. He also went on to say that Trump did a lot for Africa while he was in office. A lot of people went back and forth about those claims. But listen, I can understand why Teddy Riley and Kodak Black feel very gracious and continue to support Donald Trump because, it has positively, his actions have positively affected their lives. Kodak Black is back out on the hip hop scene. He was serving a 40-month sentence in the middle of that weapons charge when Donald Trump decided to pardon him back in 2021. So I get it. Hopefully I'd never have to be in a situation where me or a family member would have to depend on somebody like Trump to pardon me. But, obviously this has farewell for them, if you will. All right, still ahead. We've all worked in toxic workplace environments, but there's one that's making headlines this week. We'll tell you what one man had to endure at work that'll make you sick to your stomach. This is a weird one coming up on Fox Soul's Black Report. And we welcome you back to Fox Soul's Black Report. A worker at a Chicago company involved in distributing human body parts for medical research claims that 3 severed heads were left at his desk in an act of retaliation after he raised concerns about the condition of donor bodies. A guy by the name of Dale Wheatley, transportation coordinator for the Anatomical Gift Association of Illinois, filed a police report after discovering the heads. Whitley, who had never encountered such a situation in his 5 years on the job, had previously complained about improper embalming and storage of donor bodies. He also reported finding smoldering sage bundles in the office, seen as harassment. Wheatley's attorney emphasized the need for proper care and respect for the donors. Quite a creepy story here. So I did a little research because I wanted to know what was the Anatomical Gift Association of Illinois. I'd never heard of it before. And, after a person's death, the person can choose to gift their body to training and study. A lot of medical schools use this particular association and others like it across the country, to work hands-on with body parts. I'd never heard that before. I am an organ donor, and if my untimely demise, if parts of my working body can go on to help someone else, live a full, fruitful life, then so be it. But I don't know about gifting my body to science. I just couldn't see myself, and parts of myself laying around a lab. So I thought that was just so interesting. But we'll definitely have to keep on top of this story as this young man here at this particular location is claiming discrimination. Well, not necessarily discrimination, but harassment. And we'll continue to hear more about this lawsuit, as I'm sure people will pay close attention because this is so different, a little weird, a little to the left. And we're going to continue on here as a mass shooting occurred in downtown Denver as crowds gathered to celebrate the Denver Nuggets' first NBA championship. Now, the incident took place after an altercation resulting in gunfire that injured at least 9 people. 3 of the victims are in critical condition, while the others have non-life-threatening injuries. Police apprehended a suspect who was also wounded in the shooting. The incident happened at an intersection where hundreds of fans gathered to celebrate. The shooting is currently under investigation. It is still unclear if this shooting is connected to the actual championship celebration. So first, let's say, congratulations to the Nuggets. I think it's been 47 years in that franchise's history. This is their first title, an absolutely great win, a nail-biter. As for a minute, you thought the Heat, who are pretty scrappy, were going to make do with maybe another win. But thereafter, the celebration ensued. And I even remember watching coverage of the celebration. And they had a shot, and I don't know if it was this particular intersection, but definitely a shot of the street, people celebrating. And somebody was lighting off firecrackers in the middle of the crowd. You saw fireworks in the middle of the crowd. And so I thought right then and there, I was like, this could turn a little dangerous. And sure enough, we woke up to this unfortunate news. We hope the best for those who are still recovering. Last I checked, I think that count went from 9 to 10. So we'll definitely keep on top of this story as well. Let's go to Amy Cooper. You might remember her for calling the police on a black bird watcher in Central Park. She has lost her appeal against being fired from her job. The Manhattan Appeals Court ruled that she failed to prove her dismissal was due to racial discrimination or defamation by her former employer. The incident occurred when Christian Cooper asked her to leash her dog, resulting in her calling 911 and falsely claiming she was being threatened. The viral video of the incident tarnished her reputation. leading to her termination. Now, charges against her were dismissed following racial bias therapy, but the consequences of her actions remain. And we always say, you know, God doesn't like ugly. And he didn't appreciate, if you remember, you see the B-roll right there, didn't appreciate her choking out that dog either. I'm glad the dog survived. But listen, the Twitterverse went to work and quickly identified this woman and really laid a lot of pressure on her employer, who obviously saw fit that she was not fit to be a part of their corporation. Meanwhile, we call this thing, Cordeline and myself, poetic justice, as Christian Cooper. That is who she was, she went nuts on. That is the Black Bird Watcher. He now has his own show on the Nat Geo network. So that thing has been flipped around for good, and we're happy to hear about it for sure. Let's go out to LA, where the county district attorney's office has decided to deactivate its Twitter account due to the social media platform's failure to remove offensive comments despite repeated requests. The decision came after the office received a barrage of vicious and offensive comments following a post about their participation in a pride parade. The office expressed deep concern over the comments and made the difficult choice to archive their Twitter account. However, the district attorney's office will continue to engage with the public through other platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and their official website. And there's more Black Report ahead. When we come back, we'll tell you about the new changes coming to the historic theater in New York City. That's the Apollo Theater in New York City. You're watching Fox Soul's Black Report. We'll be right back. And we want to welcome you back to Fox Soul's Black Report. I'm Courtney Hicksney. Cordeline Corte has the day off today. The Apollo Theater is soon to be under new leadership. The nation's largest African-American performing arts organization has announced the appointment of Michelle Ebanks as its next president and CEO. Now, according to a release by the Apollo, Ebanks has a litany of experience in media and entertainment, and her previous experience includes serving as the CEO of Essence Communications, including Essence Magazine. Ebanks says she is excited about the new opportunity and what the future will bring. Ebanks will step into the role in July, succeeding Jonelle Procope, who served in the role for the last 2 decades, transforming the Apollo Theater into a nationally recognized cultural institution. The Apollo Theater is near the end of its first full-scale renovation and the completion of its $80 million Apollo Rising 2.0 capital campaign. Can't wait to see it. All right. My guy, maybe your guy too, Pat Sajak, is preparing to spin the wheel on television's long-running game show Wheel of Fortune for the last time. The host confirmed the news in a tweet just yesterday saying, quote, "Well, the time has come. I've decided that our 41st season, which begins in September, will be my last." Sajak gave no indication of who may replace him, but Susan Preet, Executive Vice President of Game Shows at Sony Pictures Television, the studio that produces Wheel of Fortune, told CNN in a statement that Sajak will continue as a consultant on the show for 3 years following his last year hosting. No word on Vanna White's replacement, so he's going to keep that bag coming. So I'm fascinated with this story and really the career of Pat Sajak, because it really is a blueprint, especially coming from radio like myself. He came from radio. He started Wheel of Fortune back in 1983, and he was not the original host. He actually took over. Some of you soulmates may remember Chuck Willery from Love Connection 2 and 2. Who knew? I did not know that. So this is why I find this stuff so fascinating. I really geeked out about this story, right? So he even had, I remember the Pat Sajak show. I think I was a senior in high school, and it didn't last long because it wasn't that good. And then everybody just wanted to see him at that point do, you know, the Wheel of Fortune, but that was from 89 to 90. And I did not know that the Wheel of Fortune, the actual game, how they came up with this game, was from the old school hangman game where you draw like a stick figure and you have the letters and you try to, or you have a word and you try to figure out the word letter by letter and you have to cross it out. And if you don't get it, you end up hanging yourself. And that's the original premise of Wheel of Fortune. Like the report said, no word on if Vanna White will step down. She's been there just as long as him. You know, Pat Sajak has been nominated like 19 times for Emmys. I think he's pulled down about 3. This man works 1 day a week. I think he gets $20+ million a year. And I feel like he's probably deserved it. He's worked his way up to all of this magic. And I just think it's an end of an era for the game show hosts that we know, the Barb Barkers, the Alex Trebek of Jeopardy, and now Pat Sajak. So it looks like the game show landscape will start to look really different. And I wonder if the search for his replacement will be as big and huge and a little controversial as the Jeopardy replacement. So we shall soon see. All right, an unfortunate story here as the cause of death for United States Olympic gold medalist Tory Bowie has been released. Bowie was reportedly around 8 months pregnant and passed away from pregnancy complications while undergoing labor. According to several news sources prior to the tragic discovery, her loved ones contacted local authorities to conduct a welfare check as they'd gone several days without hearing anything from her. She was found dead in her Florida home on May 2nd. She was just 32 years old. And to Atlanta now, where some city council members hope an adjusted curfew proposal for teens will help lower youth crime. Our friends over at Fox Atlanta have more.
Atlanta City Council is once again considering adjustments to the citywide curfew. The push comes after the shooting deaths of teenagers, most recently a shooting at an unauthorized graduation party that took the life of 16-year-old Breasia Powell.
Little girls are no longer off the limits in the city of Atlanta.
On Monday, an Atlanta City Council committee unanimously approved a proposal that would keep the 11 p.m. curfew. However, it would add penalties for anyone under the age of 16 who violates it. One of the violations would require the teen and his or her parents to attend a parenting program. Councilman Antonio Brown says parents also need to be held accountable and know where their kids are, especially at night.
Typically, if you were caught breaking the curfew, even though we never enforced it, there was a penalty where your parent or you could be locked up for over 90 days. And also there was a fine up to $1,000. We removed that. We included some different things because we want to help people mentally.
The new ordinance would also remove the fine that was up to $1,000 for breaking curfew, but it says the violator could be sentenced to probation. Changes like these to the city's curfew have been in the works for months, but have yet to be approved by full city council.
The proposed legislation, or the request for the original amendment, which happened November 2022, was as a result of the loss of Zion and Cameron. These are 2 teenagers that we lost on the 17th Street Bridge.
Yeah, listen, we all have a lot of work to do. There was an interesting story here in Detroit. It's where our FOXSOUL headquarters, Black Report headquarters is. There are a group of kids, young kids, who stole a school bus and were, joyriding the school bus like 2:30 in the morning. A lot of folks across social media are saying, well, where are their parents? There was a time, there was a day when at 2:30 in the morning, your butt was at home in the bed, or at least in the home. And so a lot of people were questioning, how do these parents not know where their children are? And then that led into a whole big debate about this new generation of parents and are we failing our children? Listen, I believe it starts in the home, and then that goes out into the block, the community, the village, and then into the schools. And I think that everybody holds a little bit of that responsibility, but in my opinion, mostly in the home. And when it comes to, educating our young people and keeping them active and keeping them focused in on what they should be focused in on as far as, becoming eventually functional, positive adults, you have to have, the programs, the community programs. You have to have, the resources. And we know resources take money, but putting, trades back in the school. I remember there's a time when you could graduate from high school and be a stylist or be be a carpenter or know a little bit about heating and cooling and actually go right into the workforce, because we know college is not for everybody. Put those extracurricular activities back into the school. You know, not everybody is an athlete, but maybe someone might enjoy debate or music or some kind of language or travel club or whatever the case may be. But we really need to take a hard look at what is happening with our young people. You partner that with this gun violence and how that has become an epidemic for our young people. And we're going to continue to lose an entire generation if we as adults don't really pay attention and get ourselves together so we can help get them in line and get them together. All right, coming up, singer and songwriter Solange is diversifying her portfolio. We'll tell you all about her new partnership that may have some soulmates rushing to their favorite corner store. That's coming up on Fox Soul's Black Report. And welcome back to Fox Soul's Black Report. A producer for the Starz drama BMF was suspended after allegedly threatening writers on a picket line. This happened Thursday. Those workers are seeking a new contract, as you may know. Atlanta writer Brian Egston, who wrote the recent Dennis Quaid Amazon film On a Wing and a Prayer, said he and other writers picketing on Hank Aaron Drive outside Georgia State University's football stadium, where BMF was shooting Thursday, when a show producer, Ian Wolfe, drove his vehicle towards them in what Egston saw was a threatening manner. Egston said Wolfe even admitted to him he was trying to scare them. Now, according to reports, this particular BMF producer kind of used his SUV to sort of kind of threaten these writers coming within feet of them, going at high speed and then kind of braking. And the writers did make note that this was on Hank Aaron Boulevard, not too far from the birthplace of MLK Jr. And these writers who definitely have a right to strike. This is how we get our point across. This is how we go about movement and progress in our country. They have been, quite peaceful. And, although the protests have been peaceful, the strike in and of itself, in my opinion, has been really intense, because these writers just want to live, the way we live. They want to be able to, or try to live, they want to be able to afford groceries, to afford transportation, to afford housing, especially those who live in California. We know Hollywood is the hub, is the nucleus, and they're writing these wonderful stories to these shows that we quite often enjoy, whether it's on network television or across streaming partners or networks. And they can't afford to feed their families. They can't afford to, get to work. They can't afford, to keep a roof over their head, while these network officials continue to make millions and millions of dollars, as do the network. So that's really the basis of this strike. And a lot of people have been in support. We just had the Tonys air the other day. That's like the Grammys of the musical stage, the theater. And our good sister, Ariana DeBose, she came back for a second year to host that show. And she had to do it all off, as we say in hip hop, off the dome, off just the top of her head. And she did an absolutely fabulous job. And at some point, when it just got to be real, she said, hey, I don't know who's coming up next, but just clap for him anyway. And so, this is what folks have been dealing with in this industry. And my hope, my prayer is that these writers get what they rightfully deserve. It's not like they're asking for so much. They're just asking for just enough, really, to help them move along and maintain their lives. And so when things like this happen, it's really unfortunate. But hopefully we can keep focused on this strike. And some of your shows, like P-Valley, will go back to production, because that show's on a break, too, as there are many others as well. All right, multiple brawls broke out during Sunday's fight between Floyd Mayweather and John Gotti III in Florida, but it's the one with Joseline Hernandez that's making headlines. Reality star Joseline Hernandez was arrested Monday morning on 4 separate charges for her alleged involvement in Sunday's incident. Footage of the altercation obtained by TMZ allegedly shows Hernandez, who is 36, engaged in a fight with rapper Big Lex, leading to charges of trespassing and battery. TMZ reported the outlet reports that the confrontation took place In the arena's back hallways, it's not immediately clear if Hernandez has entered pleas to the charges or retained an attorney to comment on her behalf. So just like you, Soulmates, I saw this mess of a mayhem across social media, which started in the ring with the Mayweather's folks, Gotti folks, and then just all kind of folks got involved, all on the Zeus network. So kind of sort of like no surprise there, right? But then these fights that we're talking about with Joseline happened backstage. And I even saw a lot of those clips, and she just looked like some kind of mad woman. Now, I'm not sure what ignited her or why she decided to go off, but it looked like at one point, allegedly, maybe she even assaulted someone who didn't even have anything to do with what she was angry about. They say that there were former castmates that she got into it as well. But I'm really saddened because love the girl. I followed her ever since her debut on Love and Hip Hop Atlanta and that whole trio with her and Stevie. And I really thought at this point she was really, coming into herself and finding some balance and healing her past wounds. I even thought, and you might have seen this too, Soulmates, that she was just, she just had a performance and she was very emotional, telling the crowd that, hey, this is the first time I've been out here and just been me, no drugs, no alcohol. This is who I am, a very transparent moment. And so, I'm hoping that whatever triggered her, lets her know that she still has a lot of healing to do. I don't know how well she's going to fare with these charges because, if you look at the tail of the tape, she was actually on a rampage. And it really bothered me, the people who were around. I know some people tried to break it up. It looked like a lot of security. But I feel like a lot of people let that thing, let that brawl go. They just let it happen. I don't know if it was for, a network type of moment or ratings, or I just don't know. But I just feel like it went on way too long and that those parties could have been separated before some of that damage and charges had to be filed. So we'll stay on top of this story. But I'm hoping the best for Joseline. She's a mom now. I really like her, but she was wrong for this one, or apparently wrong for this one. All right. Crown Royal launched a new partnership with its latest release, Crown Royal Golden Apple, aged 23 years. The Canadian whiskey brand has tapped Solange Knowles and St. Heron to host a series of events meant to showcase the creativity and innovation behind the new flavored whiskey. Crown Royal Golden Apple, aged 23 years, as important, is a hit, retail shelves hit retail shelves back on June the 1st. Now, the 40% drink will be available for purchase at a suggested retail price of, get this, $249.99. And I must say, Soulmates, it is good stuff. We had some specialty drinks at my rehearsal dinner, maybe about a year or so ago, wedding rehearsal dinner, and whatever that bartender whipped up with that particular product in there was absolutely good. My only thing is, is it liquor and clothing, is the only thing that we can endorse and maybe partner people with. I know it's about securing the bag and the brand, but there are so many other areas and avenues to whereas some of these celebrities or even, regular old folks like ourselves who want to make a difference can partner with people in order to bring maybe just, different types of choices, especially we were just talking about earlier with these young people and the need to secure their future. So I'm not coming down on anybody if you want to, pop bottles and own this liquor brand and own this fashion line. Have at it. I'm just saying, I'm hoping that those who we deem, celebrities and important folks to us and even us soulmates will also find it necessary to delve into other areas of partnership that, will speak to a need in our community. All righty, there's a history-making concert coming to celebrate hip-hop's 50th birthday. I'm excited about that. Hip-hop legends DJ Jazzy Jeff and Dougie Fresh have teamed up with veteran promoter manager Charlie Mack for their one-night-only mixtape live event that brings together 50 pioneer MCs from the 70s, 80s, and 90s on one stage for a historical celebration of hip-hop's 50th anniversary. The Mixtape Live concert takes place on June 17th, that's just a few days from now, at Jim Whalen Boardwalk Boardwalk Hall, that's in Atlantic City, and will feature 50 of the greatest hip-hop pioneers performing live on one stage with the legendary DJ Red Alert spinning on the ones and twos. You know, I've been excited about this for a moment, you know, being, you know, part of the younger end of the first generation of hip hop, and knowing that, you know, it came from the streets, it came from us. It started with sampling a lot of disco records, some house records, and how this genre has grown over the years. I can clearly remember when moms and dads and politicians and other folks did not care for rap music. So there's rap music, and then you have hip hop, which speaks more to the culture. And for a while, you know, there was this rub with rap music. They thought the lyrics were vulgar. They thought it was just something to throw away. It's just, you know, a fad. But this thing has been here to stay. And I would say that rap music has become quite mainstream, almost along the lines of maybe being the new rock and roll, if you will, as everybody, regardless of your walk of life, has really been influenced or has a rap record, I'm sure, on their playlist. And so it's good to see that we're now at 50 years. I'm going to leave my producer nameless, who said that he is ready for, he said he was ready for some big celebration, just one thing that will put everything together and bring everybody together. And I would agree, the celebrations have been a little splintered, but I think when you have such a huge genre with so many generations involved, or people in those generations, I think you may have to separate that thing. I mean, this celebration is going to focus in on the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s, and those are 3 generations right there. So here, and bring the celebrations on all year long. I'm just happy that hip hop is 50 years old. I did read something today I wanted to share with you real quick. Sleepy Brown, he's from the Organized Noise folks down there in Atlanta, said, hey, all of this hip hop celebrating going on, unfortunately, it looks like Outkast either wouldn't get together or won't be a part of it. He said that those two have just kind of outgrown their musical relationship, and that Andre 3000 is, quote, on a whole nother journey. So unfortunately, it looks like Outkast might not be in some of these celebrations that have been happening in and around the country, especially in Atlanta, as we continue to celebrate 50 years of hip hop. But let me tell you, that speaker box, The Love Below, that's turning 20 years this year. Sometimes you just have to say thank God for the memory and the music, and the legacy lives on. All right, so Tyler Perry is reportedly the front runner to take over the cable channel BET. Now, that's according to reports. Perry's potential acquisition comes as Paramount seeks to sell a majority stake in the network. The new deal will give him control over BET Media Group, which also includes VH1. Very interesting. All right, Perry is currently partnering with the company on BET Plus. Earlier this year, Perry expressed optimism about buying BET, saying that if it were possible, he was, quote, very, very interested. You know, I say go for it. I know there has been a lot of entertainers and inside industry folks who have come to the surface and say that they would be interested in buying BET. I remember Shaq and 50 Cent, Diddy, Byron Allen, Kenya Burris, who is responsible for the Blackish franchise. But in particular, Byron Allen, you know, I was reading in on how, you know, him and Tyler Perry were like the front runners, you know, folks that Paramount was really considering, how Tyler Perry has edged Byron Allen out at this point. Maybe it's because of Tyler Perry's already deeply rooted relationship with BET. Just about everything that comes on BET has something to do with Tyler Perry, if you ask me. But, you know, it'll be very interesting how this plays out. I feel like if it's someone like a Tyler Perry, I feel like the Soulmates will be in good hands. As we all know his platform, we all know what he is on. We're all familiar with his billionaire success, and how the naysayers of the Madea franchise are counting all of his bags nowadays. But we had a conversation maybe about a week or so ago, Nicordelai and myself, with some of the officials at the NAACP, the LA branch, who were also very interested in this whole concept and idea of a community-based kind of ownership. And it was modeled after what the good folks did for the Green Bay Packers, who, the community kind of owns that team. Over, I want to say 350, maybe 1,000 folks kind of have a little stake in that team. And as a result, that team is worth over $4 billion. You're kept abreast as to how that team is being ran, and it really proves and has shown itself to be a pretty effective model that the folks at the NAACP in LA want to tap into. So, it sounds like, Tyler Perry may be the one, but it also sounds like that this thing isn't necessarily cemented just yet, and that there could be some other potential buyers to get in on this situation, or maybe we could entertain the whole idea of a community-owned BET. And if it's not BET, I think that concept is great, maybe to apply it to other ventures in and around the village. So we will see, but just an interesting conversation. But I'm down for Tyler Perry. I'm down for all of them too. I think Byron Allen would be great. I'm just down for Black ownership, because I think at that point, we'll get what we really need. And then they're going to throw in a VH1 as well. Gotta love that. All right, up next, it's our favorite segment, Black Excellence. And we're talking about one of the greatest athletes of all time. We'll tell you the history-making move from Serena Williams to secure her daughter's future. You're watching FOXSOUL's Black Report. All right, welcome back. Serena Williams, her 5-year-old daughter, becomes the youngest owner of 2 professional sports teams. Alexis Olympia O'Hannon Jr. is already the owner of the women's soccer team, Angel City FC. Now, Dad, he's the founder of Reddit. He announced on Instagram that she has become a part owner of the Los Angeles Golf Club. The team is the first in a virtual golf league, and the format is said to be unlike anything anyone has ever seen. Serena and Sister Venus also share ownership in this new project. This team. Serena posted about the club on Instagram with the caption about how excited she is to work on the project with her family. Talk about generational wealth. And the module for this new virtual team was kind of influenced by some of what Tiger Woods has been into as well. So that's kind of like a merging of the minds, if you will. And they're excited about it. And I think this is a great way to, again, create generational wealth. And you know what? It floors me when you think about the Williams sisters and their stories. I was kind of late to the party with the King Richard movie, but it just gave us this real deal, transparent look, because these girls had their hands on that story. So I felt like it was the real deal of this man's vision, not only for, these 2 daughters, but how that vision, that focusing on the daughters, was really going to propel and platform that entire family. And just to see how against the grain and against the norm he was, and how he stuck to his vision, even though folks thought he was absolutely crazy. And at times he had to act a little crazy to let these folks know he was serious about the path that he wanted to put his daughters on. Now, I didn't know, maybe the history slipped me, we know that Serena, blossomed into this incredible athlete. But, when you watch the movie King Richard, it all kind of started with Venus, and how Dad had Serena, kind of on the sidelines for a bit because he wanted her to grow and mature. And she took it in her own hands to go ahead and start playing as an amateur. And of course, we know how this story not necessarily ends, but we know how this story has played out. So it is just good to see her still in the game, on this second pregnancy, still making moves, not only Serena, but Venus as well. And now we are seeing a new generation of girls from the Williams clan really making things happen. And this little girl is now set up to do quite well. That's so interesting to read about. Let's go on to a 100-year man from California who is celebrating 79 years of marriage with his wife. 79 years with the same person. Ori and Lena McCrae from Union City, California, celebrated their 79th wedding anniversary Ori is almost 100 years old, and his wife, Lena, is almost 97. They met in high school as teens back in the Jim Crow days and later married at the Justice of Peace. Ori and Lena have been side by side figuratively and literally for nearly 8 decades. How about this? They have 6 children, 25 grandchildren, 15 great-grandchildren, and 3 great-great-grandchildren. And this inspires me. I'm not being a good wife today because I totally forgot to put on my wedding ring. But can you imagine that with 79 years with someone? And I was reading a little deeper into their story, and they were saying not only is it their similar likes, I've always believed that like attracts like, but it's their love for Christ that has kept them together for 75 years. During the ups and the downs, they've lived in Arkansas. They even lived here in Detroit for a while. You know, everybody came to Detroit to work before they went out west and settled in that Bay Area. But what an amazing story. And they are just as in love 79 years later as they were when they first met back in high school. That is amazing. All right, for the full rundown on today's stories and more, you can access Fox Soul's video on demand on any of our partners. You can even access past shows and other Black-centered content. And don't forget to download the Fox Soul app. It is absolutely free. I promise you that tomorrow, me and my boy will be back together. That's for sure. Nee Cordelai and myself want to thank you so much for joining us today on Fox Soul's Black Report. We absolutely appreciate you. Make sure you download that Fox app. It is absolutely free, and you can stay linked with us 24/7. We'd love to stay linked with you for sure. I'm Courtney Hicks. Thanks so much for watching Fox Soul's Black Report. Take care. Do I have to say stay lifted? And definitely stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow.